Hello, welcome. Welcome. This is the global community for adults who are healing CPTSD. My name is Athena, and I'll be facilitating our time together this evening. If you are new to our community, if this is your first time hearing my voice, I'd like to warmly welcome you to our community. We've all been gathering here together about once a week for over 11 years. And on this channel, we are a group of adults who are healing what we believe to be CPTSD or symptoms of complex PTSD, usually from trauma that began in childhood. Not always, but usually. So if that is you, if you are an adult, and if you find yourself healing what you believe to be symptoms of complex PTSD, and your trauma began in infancy, early childhood, and you are doing your solid best to find ways to feel fully present and manage symptoms, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn trauma responses. The majority of our community members identify pretty solidly with the freeze fawn loop that we can get caught into. And fawn is also referred to quite often as the urge to merge or please and appease. And sometimes it is often referred to as codependency or caretaking of others or sacrificing our own needs at the expense of our own well-being to meet the needs of others. So if any of this is landing for you, then we are so grateful you have joined us. Your presence in our community is felt and valued, regardless of your ability to be here during our live discussions on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern. We are currently having weekly open discussions on Pete Walker's most recent book titled Holistically Treating Complex PTSD, a six-dimensional approach. And this week, we are going to begin at the bottom of page 319, and we are talking about ways we can feel more present in the body and become more aware of what's going on in the body. But before we do that, I want to say hello to everyone who has joined us here, who's chosen to say hello in the chat box. And I also want to remind each and every one of you that this YouTube channel is made possible by the Foundation for Post-Traumatic Healing and Complex Trauma Research. We offer a private community where we show up multiple times a day, every single day, 365 days a year, away from social media. There is a link in the description section of the video and in the chat box. So I would love to see you there. And if I don't see you there away from social media, then that's okay. I'll see you here next Monday and every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. So a very special thank you and belated happy birthday to John Harvey. John Harvey, as you know, has been with us for several years, and we are wishing you a very happy belated birthday, John Harvey. And I brought you cake. Here it is, right here. I have it in the chat box. There we go. And a very special thank you to Ninja Taco as well. Both John Harvey and Ninja Taco are my Blue Wrench crew. they are the moderators that help to keep this chat stream a safe enough place for adult survivors of complex trauma, repeated relational trauma, every single week, week after week, month after month, year after year. And this YouTube channel, as per the most recent analytics, is reaching adult survivors of repeated relational trauma in over 182 countries. So thank you, thank you, thank you to John Harvey and Ninja Taco, and thank you to each of you. Let me see if I can say hello to everyone. Hello, hello, Jen. Hello, Jeffrey Sherman. Hello, Craig. Hello, Karen. Hello, Kate and Candida and Kitty and Katie. I think I'm meeting Katie for the very first time. Oh, Katie says, I listened to the replays but was able to join live tonight. We're so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are a warm, welcoming bunch. Welcome to the family. You all are my family, my friendly family of choice, and we welcome you, Katie. Thank you for your presence. Hello to anyone else I didn't greet by name. Hello, Merzui. Hello, Lisa Marie. Hello to anybody else I didn't quite get a chance to greet. I assure you that the oversight is accidental and never intentional. So we are, as I mentioned, heading into the topic of what Pete is calling self-support techniques for increasing somatic awareness. And before we continue, I'm going to pause and I'm going to ask you a question. And if you could just send me a yes or no, or a thumbs up or a thumbs down, some sort of emoji or answer letting me know if you can hear me okay, if the volume is okay, is the background music overpowering, can you still hear my voice? I'm very, very grateful for any feedback. Warm welcome to you, Mary. So glad to see you as always. Hello, warm welcome, Nadine. As always, so good to see you. Awesome. Thank you, thank you. All right. Appreciate your feedback, and without further delay, we will go ahead and we will begin. Again, we are at the bottom of page 319. I want to invite you to get very, very comfortable. And if you happen to be clenching your jaw or your hands or armoring, or if your shoulders and neck feel just a little bit tense, I want to encourage you to roll your shoulders and allow yourself to experience as much comfort as possible. We might run a little bit long tonight like we did last week, but this topic of body awareness is one that every single one of you that has reached out has said that it's been very, very, very helpful and supportive for you. So I'm so glad to hear that. And here we go. Pete says, and again, this is the subtitle, the section subtitle is Self-Support Techniques for Increasing Somatic Awareness. When therapists teach survivors the mindfulness techniques above, the ones we talked about last week, they enable them to practice fully inhabiting their bodies. Such practices decrease harmful dissociation, whether that be left brain obsessing and worrying, or right brain zoning out. With enough practice, survivors can often learn to metabolize painful sensations anywhere in the body. This especially applies to anxiety, digestive pain, non-chronic muscle and joint pain, and even certain kinds of headaches. Again, with enough practice and patience, continuously sensate focusing on the locus of pain often dissolves and releases the pain. Therapists can also motivate survivors to cultivate their somatic awareness by pitching it as a way to decrease their armoring, hypervigilance, and anxiety. Again, with considerable practice, a greater ability to relax and find periods of peacefulness is often the reward. Through regular practice, survivors can discover that there is nothing inside them that needs to be reacted to with hate, fear, shame, despair, self-abandonment, numbing out, or dissociative, obsessive, compulsive distraction. This, of course, depends on sufficiently defanging the rabid critic. And with enough time and practice, survivors are often rewarded with a revival of their ability to stay caringly and peacefully present to all of their inner experience. Ultimately, increased somatic awareness helps establish a fluid balance in the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system of the autonomic nervous system. Many of my clients, and this is Pete speaking, he says, many of my clients and friends who embrace a daily somatic mindfulness practice experience improvement in their physical health. They also report discovering a very helpful felt sense in their bodies and an improved equilibrium between being active and being at rest. A felt sense is akin to intuition. It is a bodily based perception and discernment of what constitutes right action in any given situation. Individuals vary in the parts of the body where they feel this sensation of clarity and certainty. It can be experienced as an increased, pleasant sensation in the gut, the stomach, the heart, the whole body, all at once, or even the head. Another benefit of increased somatic awareness is decreasing entrapment in worrying and or fogging out. The key reward I often get from this type of meditating is a sense that I have come home to the peacefulness of my body, especially when my starting point has been a place of brain fog, anxiety, or uncomfortable perseveration. It is also not unusual for therapists who address somatic development arrests to see their clients spontaneously awaken their arrested instincts to physically care for themselves. I have witnessed many survivors naturally gravitate toward improving their diets, sleep habits, and exercise regimens. This often seems to come out of a felt sense and an intuitive realization that such self-support will decrease discomfort and tension in their bodies and improve their quality of life. Moreover, ongoing somatic repair seems to happen automatically when survivors reduce their physiological stress via improving their flashback management skills. Especially potent help comes from the somatic awareness work of feelingly dissolving the painful sensations of anxiety and or releasing these sensations through crying, angering, or verbal venting. All these processes naturally release armoring, promote embodiment, improve sleep, decrease hyperarousal, and encourage deeper and more rhythmic breathing. In contrast, when survivors totally bypass somatic work, their anxiety rarely ebbs enough for them to peacefully inhabit their bodies. After all, CPTSD is an anxiety disorder. Until therapists can see evidence of their clients' anxiety decreasing, they do well to instruct and encourage them to frequently practice somatically oriented Step 7 of the flashback management steps, which we read in, I believe it was week 5. This simple 5-part step invokes effective somatic self-help techniques for decreasing sympathetic hyperarousal and increasing parasympathetic ability to self-soothe. Now, I'm going to pause right here and I'm going to check in with you all. I'm getting ready to read what Pete is talking about, but if you want to bring it up on your screen and screenshot it and save it to your phone, you can go to pete-walker.com, and over on the left-hand side, just click on Flashback Management. Okay? And what I'm getting ready to read right now is step number 7. Okay? So here is the reiteration of that step. Ease back into your body. Fear will launch you into heady worrying or numbing and spacing out. Gently ask your body to relax. Feel each of your major muscle groups and softly encourage them to slacken. Tightened musculature sends unnecessary danger signals to the brain. Breathe deeply and slowly. Holding your breath will also signal danger. Slow down. Rushing presses the psyche's panic button. Find a safe place to unwind and soothe yourself. Wrap yourself in a blanket. Hold a stuffed animal. Lie down in a closet or in a bath. Take a nap. Feel the fear in your body without reacting to it. Fear is just an energy in your body that cannot hurt you if you do not run from it or react self-destructively to it. Let's just all take a slow breath together. Top of page 322. Another specially helpful somatic practice is stretching. Regular systematic stretching of the body's major muscle groups can help to reduce chronic flashback armoring. Learning to stretch was a major ordeal for me and for many survivors I have known because of our extreme body armoring. The fact that I had to weather many toxic shame attacks because I was always the least flexible person in any group stretching class did not help matters. Moreover, when various people commented about how good it felt to stretch, I felt both puzzled and further shamed because it was anything but pleasant for me. Thankfully, however, as my instinct for self-care gradually evolved, I read about how stretching is a proven contribution to good health. I then subscribed to the great importance of stretching. Persistent practice eventually gave me results that I could not discount. The highlight was that I was rewarded by the resolution of decades of painfully lingering back problems. And although I still rarely truly enjoy the practice, I am absolutely convinced that it explains why I am still able to run, swim, dance, bend in all directions, and happily explore the steep hills behind my house at the age of 78. Stretching has become a true labor of love for me. And finally, therapists do well to refer survivors to yoga, massage, meditation, and relaxation training to aid them in letting go of their armoring. Reasonably priced classes in these modalities are usually available in most sufficiently populated areas. We're at the bottom of page 322 in the section that Pete has subtitled Somatic Mindfulness Softens the Abandonment Melange. Because depression in developmental trauma and CPTSD commonly morphs instantly into fear and shame, early somatic mindfulness work often involves staying present to the physical sensations of fearful hyperarousal. Mild sensations of fear are often muscular tightness and or tension anywhere in the body, especially the alimentary canal. Tension in the jaw, throat, chest, diaphragm, belly, and groin also often correlate with fear. More intense sensations of fear are nausea, jumpiness, feeling wired, shortness of breath, hyperventilation, alimentary distress, and intense armoring. Therapists can teach survivors how to become therapeutically mindful of these feeling sensations with the instructions described above in Cultivating Somatic Awareness, the ones that we just read, and a little bit of last week. We're on page 323, third paragraph. Therapists can guide them to sensate focus on their fear to metabolize it. In the beginning, this requires noticing and resisting their psyche's habit of quickly dissociating from any uncomfortable sensation. In the service of this, therapists can explain to survivors that their development of somatic awareness depends on frequently and kindly reining in their awareness away from thinking, nodding off, or fantasizing. At such times, They merely need to gently bring their awareness back into fully feeling the sensations of their fear. Therapists can also help their clients hone their mindfulness by periodically steering them with this prompt. Breathe into the sensation. There is nothing to do now but bring your full awareness into your most dominant sensation. And although sensations of fear can sometimes feel unbearable at first, persistently focusing on them with non-reactive attention can metabolize them as if awareness itself is digesting and integrating them. Achieving this typically necessitates a great deal of practice, combined with abundant patience and self-forgiveness for lapses in attention. This can be enhanced by a commitment to daily practice at home and to kindly and gently bringing one's awareness back to sensations whenever it wanders. I'm going to pause and get a sip of water. Just want to invite everyone to just stretch or soften your jaw, perhaps your forehead. Unclench your hands. Just check and make sure and see if you're armoring or if there's any level of discomfort in your neck or shoulders. If your shoulders happen to be up right under your earlobes, maybe just see if you can lower your shoulders and turn your head to the left and to the right. Up and down. And sometimes just doing that will activate your parasympathetic and give you a nice, relaxing yawn. I just ran out of water. We are at the top of page 324, the subsection that Pete has called introspective somatic work. With considerable practice, survivors can learn to metabolize their fear during a flashback just by fully feeling it. Moreover, focusing on sensations often brings up memories and unreleased feelings of grief about childhood suffering. This then provides therapeutic opportunities to grieve the losses of childhood more fully and to practice self-compassion until it becomes habitual. As survivors' somatic awareness grows, they can develop their sensitivity to therapeutically feel the sensations of the abandonment depression itself. The sensations of depression are typically so subtle and sometimes so diffuse that they are barely perceptible at first. With practice, however, they can eventually be identified and felt as pressure, heaviness, swollenness, exhaustion, emptiness, hunger, longing, aching, and/or deadness. Initially, these sensations can be as difficult to stay present to as those of fear. With enough practice, focused attention can assimilate them as they are integrated into consciousness. A key challenge here is not dissociating into sleep. Encouraging our clients to sit up straight in a comfortable chair can help them to stay awake and focused on fully feeling and metabolizing their depression. As practice becomes more accomplished, these feelings and sensations of depression can morph into a sense of relaxation and ease. On extraordinary occasions, they sometimes open to an underlying numinous emotional experience of clarity, peacefulness, well-being, and belonging. I began my journey, this is Pete speaking, bottom of 324, page 324. Pete says, I began my journey of learning how to fully feel by devoting 30 minutes daily to feeling the sensations of my fear. This was extremely difficult because I had survived my childhood and early adulthood with a hyper-aroused flight response, an ADHD-like busyness. Unknowingly, I mechanically created daily marathons of activity to keep myself one step ahead of my fear and my shame-saturated depression. Later in adulthood, I reduced this to half marathons, but I was still a busyholic despite my relaxed persona. It was daunting to tune in to how wired I was. In my attempts to become more mindful, I was often exasperated by how frequently my awareness fled my body and went back into thinking and daydreaming. Often, I absconded into dissociatively planning something more exciting to do once the timer went off. In the first few months, my focus wavered wildly between feeling the sensations of my fear while being continuously disrupted by inner critic thinking. I was assailed by armies of catastrophizing thoughts and visualizations. My critic repeatedly reacted to my fear as if I were still captive in my unsafe family. Like an unscratchable itch, my critic also goaded me to launch into flight mode, into a reactivated pursuit of a long list of perfectionistic salvation fantasies. I so longed to get going that I had strange, tantalizing fantasies of cleaning my apartment, which was perennially at the bottom of my to-do list. In the first year of this practice, I frequently found myself white-knuckling the handles on my chair to stay somatically present to my feelings. Otherwise, I would have been off and running, self-medicating via pumping my adrenals. Gradually, I learned to keep the focus of my awareness on the sensation of my fear long enough to discover that holding this focus digested and relaxed my fear within 10 minutes. My success with digesting my fear led me to discover the rock bottom underlying core sensations of my abandonment depression. Mindfully merging with the subtle sensations of that depression became the finishing tool of deconstructing my self-abandonment. Over and over, I gently reoriented my focus onto the sensations of my depression. Occasionally, these sensations were intense, but more often they were elusive, and subtle. Often it was difficult to resist the urge to fall asleep, and many times I could not. Top of page 326. And other times, Pete says, I noticed how instantly my depression scared me back into fear and triggered me into toxic shame. Often I would witness myself echoing my parents' contempt. Bad, lazy, worthless, good for nothing, bound to fail, waste of space, abomination in God's eyes. But with ongoing practice of fighting off that critic, I gradually learned to disidentify from its toxic vocabulary. I also learned to stay awake most of the time. I then found myself more accurately naming these revised childhood feelings and sensations. Small, frightened, helpless, lonely, unsupported, unloved, and hated. And over time, this renaming rewarded me with a profound sense of compassion for the abandoned child I was. Equally satisfying was that I discovered that sensate focusing was a powerful thought-stopping technique. When the critic was especially loud and persistent, shifting my awareness away from thinking into feeling my sensations, it became a potent way of coming home to a safer place. Now, when I do this, it is, as one survivor told me, like coming home to the rest in the mother of my body. In my current recovery work, I most commonly apply this mindfulness technique to occasional experiences of waking up in a flashback to my original abandonment depression. For me, this typically gets triggered by a few nights of poor sleep, which often decreases my energy level and dulls my ability to concentrate. Most of my life, this dullness provided rich fodder for my critic. Over the years, however, increased mindfulness and somatic awareness allows me to see that I typically function well enough no matter how tired or introverted I feel. These days, I am sometimes even able to authentically welcome abandonment feelings of exhaustion as an opportunity to take a break from my less essential routines. This, in turn, increasingly releases me from my critic's attempt to resurrect its all or none productivity program. I have learned to use my to-do list healthily rather than surrendering it to my critic, which used it as a cat o' nine tails to spur me everlastingly on. Top of page 327. I can now be content on days when I do not get much done. I am also delighted to report that numerous clients and readers have thanked me for how my guidance in this work has led them to feeling more grounded and peaceful in their bodies. Finally, arrested somatic development is well evolved when survivors authentically want to halt being busy. When it starts to feel bad, they then gladly choose to sensate focus and plumb the feeling. Multiple repetitions of the phrase, just one more thing to do, is a common repetitive self-command that typically indicates that one is in a flashback and stuck in the excessive busyness of the flight response. Accomplished survivors will see it as a call to stop and focus inward, because many helpful experiences have taught them that nothing will move them through feeling bad more effectively than fully feeling it. Middle of page 327, in the section subtitled Depressed Thinking versus Feeling Depressed. Healing further progresses when survivors learn to distinguish depressed thinking, which requires thought stopping, from feelings of depression, which typically needs to be felt through. Let me start by once again normalizing occasional feelings of depression. Listlessness, anhedonia, an inability to enjoy normal pleasures, and a modicum of ennui and dissatisfaction are natural and existential. They are recurring experiences for everyone. They are included in the price of admission to life, traumatizing childhood or not. I'm going to read that paragraph one more time because I think someone might need to hear it. Again, middle of page 327, Pete says, let me start by once again normalizing occasional feelings of depression. Listlessness, anhedonia, inability to enjoy normal pleasures, and a modicum of dissatisfaction are natural and existential. They are recurring experiences for everyone. They are included in the price of admission to life, traumatizing childhood or not. Moreover, depression is often encoded with meaning. It can be a unique portal to one's intuition. As such, it is sometimes an invaluable plea from the psyche or the body to slow down for rest and restoration. At other times, it informs us that a once valued job, relationship, or other preferred circumstance is no longer healthy for us. In such instances, we feel depressed because some irreparable change has rendered this once vital thing in our lives detrimental to us. We feel depressed because we need to let go and move on from something that was once of great value to us, but is now moribund. Overreaction to depression exacerbates toxic shame. I'm going to read that sentence one more time. Overreaction to depression exacerbates our toxic shame. It reinforces survivors' beliefs that they are unworthy, defective, and unlovable when they feel depressed. Sadly, this typically drives them deeper into their original abandonment depression. Overreacting to depression turns a potentially helpful emotional message into a scourging punishment from the past. A mountain of self-hate then replaces a molehill of feeling bad, which might have contained a treasure that might have been mined by surrendering to fully feeling it. Middle of page 328, in the subsection titled Somatic Mindfulness Can Metabolize Depression. Therapists can help survivors repair the most grievous wound in their relationship with themselves, their excruciating, self-pathologizing reactions to their experiences of depression. I believe that learning to allow one's depression self-compassionately is the final frontier in trauma recovery. Therapists can guide survivors to deconstruct their learned survival habit of immediate self-abandonment at the merest hint of depression. A deep level of recovery from childhood trauma requires developing empathy for oneself when depression is the weather of the day. Therapists shine when they normalize and de-shame depression and help survivors to deconstruct old habits of reflexively reacting against it. This is core to fostering the development of unconditional self-compassion, which is, once again, the cornerstone of fully developed self-esteem. With a great deal of practice, merging with depression can metabolize it and occasionally transmute it into genuine experience of deep peace and the relaxation response. Top of page 329. Like me, Pete says, some of my clients have described it as a full body experience of all their muscles subtly relaxing at once and leaving them in a state of profound peacefulness. I have experienced a relaxation response numerous times while practicing somatic mindfulness with my felt depression. Herbert Benson states on page 140 of The Mind-Body Effect, quote, "The relaxation response is the counterpart of the fight or flight response," end quote. He also reports that it can be attained through Eastern meditative techniques and Western relaxation techniques. This chapter and the one preceding describe my combinations of these two sources, which can be used to mollify sympathetic nervous system hyperarousal and promote the parasympathetic relaxation response. Therapists can teach and encourage survivors to practice merging their awareness with their breath and the sensations of their depression, fear, and shame to balance these two functions of the autonomic nervous system. The practice of mindfulness cultivates survivors' ability to stay acceptingly open to all of their emotional, visceral, and somatic experience without retreating into old, outmoded defenses. Stephen Levine's beautiful book, Who Dies?, is an enlightening, jargonless, and easily accessible guide on learning the practice of mindfulness. Bottom of page 329, in the subsection titled Somatic Awareness and Sensate Focusing Aids Digestive Issues. Somatic awareness promotes healthy digestion. Sensate focusing on discomfort in the digestive tract can often relax and release it. With enough practice, sensate focusing promotes effective digestion and the assimilation of nutrients. This is analogous to the way that the process of feeling integrates emotions. If, however, the individual suppresses or represses their sensations and emotions, their bodies typically armor and tighten, especially along the alimentary canal. Digestive tract contraction often somatizes into the digestive problems that frequently co-occur with CPTSD. Diarrhea, for instance, is sometimes an emotionally caused physical response to intense danger. When this occurs, fear has triggered the sympathetic nervous system into immediately evacuating the bowels to make more energy available for fight or flight. Nausea can operate similarly. CPTSD somatization can also cause health problems associated with constipation, as fear and anxiety can tighten the alimentary canal and hamper the peristaltic motion necessary for healthy evacuation. Constipation may also result from a dissociative freeze response that renders one's body sluggish and takes energy away from peristalsis. This does not, of course, discount the singular role that a fast food, fibrous diet can play in constipation. Bottom of page 330, in a section subtitled Hunger Camouflaged as Depression. Feelings of abandonment commonly masquerade as the physiological sensations of hunger. I'm going to read that sentence one more time because someone besides me needs to hear it. Pete says, bottom of page 30, feelings of abandonment commonly masquerade as the physiological sensations of hunger. Hunger pains soon after a big meal are rarely truly about food. Typically, such sensations are camouflaged emotional hunger and the longing for safe, nurturing connection. John Bradshaw often said that everyone who grew up in a loveless, dysfunctional family had eating disorders, but food cannot satiate the hunger pain of abandonment. Only loving support can. Even after decades of practice, I can still find it difficult to differentiate this type of attachment hunger from physical hunger. One often reliable clue is that the sensation of longing for the nourishment of attachment is usually in my small intestine, while physical hunger's locus is a little higher up in my stomach. When I take the time to meditate on this lower abdomen sensation, I often become aware that I am in a low-level flashback. Feeling through this uncomfortable sensation typically resolves both the flashback and my false hunger. I believe this type of emotional hunger is at the core of most food addictions. One of the reasons food addictions are so difficult to manage is that eating was the first and only source of self-comforting that was available to most survivors. Little wonder that most emotionally abandoned children fall into addictive eating patterns to soothe themselves. Janine Roth's book, Breaking Free from Emotional Eating, offers powerful self-help on this subject. And finally, like renowned addiction expert Gabor Mate, I always say his name wrong. If someone knows exactly how to pronounce Gabor Mate's name, if you would like to type it out phonetically in the chat box, I would probably, love you forever even more than I already do. I always want to make sure I'm pronouncing people's names correctly. Pete says, I believe that attachment hunger is at the core of most addictive behaviors, even process addictions. Another example of the latter is the sex and love addict's desperate pursuit of high-intensity relating. It seems to me that a high percentage of addictive behaviors arise out of survivors' misguided attempts to self-medicate deeper abandonment pain and unmet attachment needs. Bottom of page 331. In a subtitled category of the book, Pete has called pseudo-cyclothymia. On a parallel with false hunger, feeling tired is sometimes unrelated to sleep deprivation. It is instead an experience of the abandonment depression, an emotional weariness that masquerades as physiological tiredness. This emotional tiredness comes from never or rarely feeling nurtured and enlivened by the company of another, as well as never being able to feel comfortable with oneself. Unfortunately, over time, the two can become confusingly intertwined. When a survivor's abandonment depression is unaddressed, either kind of tiredness can trigger them into fear. This then activates the inner critic, which subliminally translates tired into endangering imperfection, which in turn triggers the survivor into a 4F trauma response. Top of page 332. Ironically, overreacting to emotional tiredness eventually creates physical exhaustion, real physical exhaustion, via a process that I call the cyclothymic two-step. The cyclothymic two-step is the dance of flight types or subtypes who habitually overreact to their tiredness with a burst of workaholic or busyholic activity. Self-medicating with their own adrenaline, they run to counteract the emotional weariness of the abandonment depression. Eventually, however, most exhaust themselves physically, run out of adrenaline, and become temporarily too depleted or sick to continue running. At such times, they collapse into an accumulated depression so aching that they relaunch desperately into flight speed at the first sign of replenished adrenaline. Survivors with this pattern sometimes misdiagnose themselves as bipolar because of their abrupt vacillations between adrenaline highs and abandonment exacerbated lows. I'm going to read that sentence one more time because someone besides me needs to hear it. Survivors with this pattern sometimes misdiagnose themselves as bipolar because of their abrupt vacillations between adrenaline highs and abandonment exacerbated lows. Also noteworthy, here is the frustrating journey that many survivors undergo treating emotional tiredness with physiologically based methods. The limited efficacy of such an approach, however, typically augments their shame. They begin thinking, "What's wrong with me? I've changed everything in my diet and in my sleep and in my exercise regimen. I've taken every available supplement and I've seen every type of practitioner imaginable, and I still wake up feeling dead tired," which is an apt symptom for, you guessed it, the abandonment depression. There is a healthy way out of this cul-de-sac of misdirected overstriving. Are you ready for it? Therapists can encourage such clients to cultivate self-kindness and to rest during those inevitable times of feeling tired or bad or lonely or depressed. In this regard, the use of the AA 12-step acronym HALT, Hungry, Angry, Lonely, Tired, can remind the survivor to stop and focus yieldingly and self-compassionately on feeling the sensations of the abandonment depression. This acronym can also serve as an indicator that a survivor is most likely experiencing an emotional flashback. I'm going to read the last paragraph one more time, even though we're out of time. Pete says, bottom of page 332, at the end of this section and the end of our evening, there is a healthy way out of this cul-de-sac of misdirected overstriving. Therapists can encourage such clients, that's us, to cultivate self-kindness and to rest during those inevitable times of feeling tired, bad, lonely, or depressed. And in this regard, the use of the AA 12-step acronym HALT, Hungry, Angry, Lonely, Tired, can remind the survivor to stop and focus yieldingly and self-compassionately on feeling the sensations of the abandonment depression. This acronym, HALT, Hungry, Angry, Lonely, Tired, can also serve as an indicator that a survivor is most likely experiencing an emotional flashback, at which point we can go to pete-walker.com and look to the left and click on Managing Flashbacks. Or maybe it's called Flashback Management. That's what I think it's called. Next week, we will begin on page 333. For those of you who are taking notes, 333. If Kitty is here, or if, let's see who's here. Perhaps Jen, or Kate, or Candida, or John Harvey, or Ninja Taco. Ninja Taco, are you here, recovery buddy? Warm welcome, Jill. I didn't get a chance to say hi to you earlier. Or you, Mary. Someone who's here with me every week. Jeffrey Sherman. Yeah, anyone who would like to be in my brain. Nadine. We're going to start on page 333. That's where we're going to be next week. Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you all for your presence. Oh, you guys. Hello, recovery buddy. I'm sending you hugs. Thank you. So, thank you all for your presence. Thank you to each of you. That's okay, Kitty. We felt your presence even though you had a phone call. It's okay. Thank you, Jeffrey Sherman. Thank you, Kate. So I'm going to post a link to our, oops, I thought I was going to. Just kidding. Where did it go? Where's my link? Where did it go? So I'm hoping this was helpful and supportive, or at least interesting for your unique healing journey. Please remember that this YouTube channel is made possible by the Foundation for Post-Traumatic Healing and Complex Trauma Research. And we have groups like this, kind of like our Monday nights, but a little bit different, just different topics and facilitators, and just a growing community of wonderful, beautiful, courageous souls that are on a healing path. And if you enjoy spending time here, you might enjoy it over there. So there's a link in the chat box. And if for whatever reason you do not want to join us over there, that's okay. The best way you can support this YouTube channel is by clicking the like button if it was helpful or supportive or interesting, clicking share, or adding it to a playlist, because then you tell all of the Google little spiders that crawl all of the websites and all of the algorithms and all of the things that we are doing work that is helping people out in the world, and they will add us to people's recommended video feed. So thank you for your presence in my life. Thank you for allowing me to be in your life. I will see you over in our community, and if I don't, that's okay. I will see you back here next Monday and every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And until I see you again, please be extra kind and patient and gentle with yourself as Jeffrey would say, because you're worth it. I love you all so much. Good night, everyone.